Can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir. I can hear you just fine.
Very good.
It's from the last meeting. Yeah.
We're live? Okay. We'll give our last director a moment. Hi, Luana. How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Good evening, everyone. The Manassas Park Economic Development Authority is called to order for March 15th, 7 p.m. Welcome. Good evening. It's good to see everyone tonight. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum this evening? Very good. So we'll move on with the agenda. The first item of the agenda is approval of the agenda. I trust that everyone had an opportunity to take a look at the agenda before arriving tonight. Do we have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda for this evening?
I move that we approve the agenda with any necessary edits.
A second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The motion carries. The agenda is approved with any necessary revisions or edits. Madam Secretary, do we have anyone scheduled for citizen time? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the reading, correction, and approval of the minutes from September 21st, 2022, which gives us an idea of how long it's been since we've met last. Are there any suggested revisions or corrections to the minutes from the previous meeting that we need to know about or note at this time?
Just one small one. It says I was absent, but I wasn't.
September 20, you were present?
No, absent.
Oh, he was, Michael.
No, I was. No, I was present.
He was
Oh,
present.
okay.
Indeed.
Okay, Michael
Indeed, he
Jones
was present. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Sounds good.
All right. So with that correction, is there a motion on the floor to approve the minutes from September 21st with the noted correction?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. The motion carries. The minutes from September 21st, 2022 are approved with the noted correction of Director Jones being present.
Yes.
Okay, very good. The next item of business is old business. There is no old business. New business is the issuance of the stormwater easement to the VRE. And in the packet that came in preparation for this, there were several pages that outlined this, this easement. And the action here is for us to be able to authorize the chairman to be able to sign over that, that plat of land, I believe. But let's turn it over to Dean, who can give us a little bit more of a summary, a better summary on this than I could.
Thank you. So if you look at the plat that's attached in your agenda packet here, let me pull it up on my side, you'll see what we're doing here is we're not actually conveying land, we're just conveying an easement. So if you look at the plat, you see the hatched area that says EX period SWM ESM apostrophe T. That's an existing stormwater management easement that is no longer needed and would actually interfere with the development because the garage is going to go right where that is. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to have you grant a storm drainage easement, which will channel the water down to the left side of that plat to an existing storm pipe that goes underneath the railroad tracks and eventually over to the stormwater management pond at the end of the parking lot, the VRE parking lot. And you'll see also there's a small storm drainage easement that was vacated to the right there. That was just a channel that was there had riprap in and stuff, and there was a channel that just took water over to the stormwater management area. Stormwater management area really was just a swale. I don't think it was ever actually designed as a stormwater management pond. But this drainage easement will actually have a channel built into it. So we're vacating existing easements and granting an additional easement for the storm drainage.
Excuse me, Dean, if just for clarity, I have my notes in front of me. Are you on page, I guess it would be 12 of the packet that we received, so I know what I'm looking at and know what I'm...
Yeah, 12 of 42. It's the plat on the right says, it says lot 5-1A, Connor Center in big bold letters.
Okay, thank you.
And, yeah, and so, this plat here is not the final one. I don't know why this one's being used, but this is probably the one that I just pulled up. But the hatched area up at the top is not going to be hatched in this final version because we're not we're not vacating any easements up there. So those are all, a third party has to do that. So I just noticed that. So this is not the final version of the plat. It's going to be approved. That one will have that removed, that hatched area moved to the top.
So Dean,
Go
ahead.
Yes.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Well, because the deed itself is what's more important. It talks about the language. Typically, this is something the city would just reserve, when we conveyed it to the EDA. But in this case here, we need to have it actually granted to the city because the city is ultimately responsible for all stormwater management throughout the city. So we have to have the ability to go in there and make repairs to a drainage ditch if it fails.
So Dean, what's the requested action for the EDA to authorize the chairman to be able to sign this deed?
So I want you to approve and authorize you to sign the deed of easement. So you're approving the deed of easements and plat of easements and vacations, and then authorizing EDA chair to sign the deed of easement. And I think you have to sign the plat too. Let me see if you have to do that. Maybe not. Yeah, there's a signature block there too. So I can read the proposed motion if you want, and then you can just decide whether that's a good motion or not.
Okay. Please. Thank you.
Okay. It's that the EDA approve and authorize the EDA chair to sign the deed of easement and vacations for the stormwater management or storm drainage easement on lot 5-1A, as well as the accompanying plat as presented and subject to final EDA attorney review.
All in favor?
I just have one
Please.
question. Dean, you said that what we're looking at on page 12, a lot 5-1A, that's not the final. So Mark is going to get the final for...
Well, when I say he'll get the final one. We'll have full-size ones that have to have his signature on them.
Okay.
This is just a PDF, and if you want, I can pull up the actual one. I should have it somewhere here and show it to you if you feel more comfortable doing that.
And actually, we have them in the room, Luana, right there to your left,
Right here,
actually.
okay.
Yep. Yeah.
And this is still not the final, correct?
So
What we have right here.
the printout that's in the room, we have a printout, Dean. Is that the final?
No, the printout is the one. I just noticed that the plat that you have here is not the final one. Let me just see if I can pull it up real quick.
Okay. Thank you.
Find out where I have it.
Dean, this is Lena.
Actually, now that we're thinking about it, I'm not sure how what's that? Lana, you were going to say something?
Yes, you gave me 3 plats to have Mark sign, so those are not going to be the good plats?
Those should be the good ones.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know why the PDF is not showing. You want to go pull one of those out so everyone just see what they're actually approving?
Yeah.
Mark
It
has
should
them
be
in front
my
of him,
office.
yes. Okay, thank you.
We can actually.
Now, can you just verify that the hatched area at the top is not on that plat?
Gentlemen? Take one and we'll share over here.
Okay.
It's missing the hashed area on top. This is
Oh, okay. So it's just missing that. Okay, I got it.
So is the hashed area removed on that one?
Yes,
is.
the hashed area is removed.
Up
on
at the
this one.
top?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's the correct one. That's good. So so you would sign that one if the EDA authorizes you to.
Okay. All right.
There's 3 of them, so you'd sign each one of them. We have to take 3 down to the courthouse for recordation.
Okay.
And then also the deed as well.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
So we were about to, I think you made a motion, but nobody seconded.
We need a motion, yes.
Yeah, it just, we went right from the motion to a vote.
All right. Dean, just for our collective consciences, would you mind reading that statement one more time?
All right, 1 second. That the EDA approve and authorize the EDA chair to sign the deed of easement and vacations for a stormwater drainage easement on lot 5-1A and the accompanying plat as presented and subject to final EDA attorney review.
Okay, second?
So we have a motion for the approval, yes?
Yeah, I made a second.
Okay.
No, he made the motion, I just second. He can't make the motion?
No, I don't get to make a motion. I just read it. Someone has to actually make the motion.
You don't have to repeat it.
We can just say so
So
moved, so moved.
So moved, okay?
So moved, yes.
All right,
Thank
very
you.
good.
And second.
Okay, Luana seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None, okay. The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you for all your hard work.
You're very welcome.
The next item of business is a chairman's report. I have nothing to report as an update from any previous meeting.
Are we skipping 6B?
The next item
Mr.
on-
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
6B, I
we
think you
missing?
skipped over 6B.
That was not part, the authorization for the chairman to approve and sign a certificate of satisfaction.
Yes. Dean, do you want to talk about that
This
one?
is me again.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Sorry.
My apologies. I thought this was all part and parcel to the same agenda item. Sorry about that.
No, this is another one. So this is actually a cleanup from when the EDA was called the IDA and developed Connor Center. There was a property up there that had $1 million loan through the EDA, and it looks like it was satisfied by a refinancing 10 years later for $750,000. Atlanta's gone through the records, and it looks like they were making payments, so it should have been about $250,000 that they had paid off over the 10-year period. However, the IDA was disbanded in 1991, and so when it was paid off, there was no certificate of satisfaction that was issued for the original debt. Now, Lana has, like I said, gone through the records. I'm going to let her speak and see if you guys think what she tells you is sufficient to authorize the chairman to sign a certificate of satisfaction. So, Lana, I'll hand it over to you if you would, please.
Yeah. Dean, in 1991, the IDA at that time wanted to disband, but we have a letter from the city attorney telling them that they could not disband until the Vermillion, revenue bond was paid off. And I do not have anything showing that was paid off. That was in
But they
1995.
did, in fact, disband, though, right?
They were not allowed to disband when they had they actually did a resolution to disband, but the city attorney told them they could not.
Okay, but
But they
they
never
ultimately
disbanded.
did. So are you saying that since they did disband, that means that that the debt had been paid off?
They didn't actually disband. What they did was there wasn't anything for them to do, so when the terms came up, nobody wanted to get reappointed, so it just kind of, was there, but not really had any members until after 2000.
Okay, so we don't have anything to say that the debt was actually paid off?
No, I could not find anything that said it was paid off.
Well, the attorney that called me has since called another attorney, one of the two trustees for the original debt, and he doesn't remember it, and the other one has since passed away. So I'm not really sure what we do. There's a pending sale right now, and this is a cloud on the title that they're waiting for this. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. Obviously, if it's insufficient for you to believe that it was paid off, then you should not authorize the certificate of satisfaction. But if you think there is sufficient evidence, then you could do that.
Discussion?
So is the burden on us or is it a burden on them?
Well, the burden's on them. So they've been trying to do it. I got a call from the attorney representing the landowner, who just so happens to be the mayor of Falls Church also. And so he's representing this guy, and he's asked if you would be willing to issue a certificate of satisfaction. But I can't tell you that that's a good thing or not. I mean, I don't really know what to tell you in this, because it would seem that the refinancing in 1996 was done to pay off the debt, but we don't have any proof of that. And the instrument that's recorded in the land records makes no reference to any payment of prior debt, or that it's refinancing. It's just a deed of trust.
Dean, in 1991, the Vermillions owed a little over $700,000.
They owed how much?
Still owed it at that time, 1991, over $700,000.
Okay, and then in 1996, they got a loan for $750,000, which
Okay.
arguably would have paid off the original debt, the remaining debt, plus whatever improvements they probably were wanting to put on there at the time. That's typically what happens, but there's nothing that says that.
No, I could not find anything.
It's probably what happened, but we don't have anything to prove that.
No.
Who owns this? Is this city land?
No, that's private.
No, it's private land. They're trying to sell it, and this is a cloud on the title.
Well, the city gave them so many acres to sell, and so they could have money to do things. And this was 1.5,
Okay, so the IDA did own this land before.
city owned it and then sold it to the IDA.
Is there any type of lien that we have on that from that transaction?
Other than the.
Well, we had a note, but there's nothing that says the note was paid off.
No.
So typically what happens is you get a note, and then they'll have a deed of trust that authorizes the trustees to take the property and sell it to pay off the note if the borrower doesn't make regular payments. That never happened. They never went to a trustee sale, so that indicates that they weren't delinquent in any of their payments. So, I mean, they still had trustees at the time, so they would have had to do something, but it's very odd that we didn't have a certificate of satisfaction, except for the fact that we didn't have a board at the time.
There's no bank records or anything that show transactions being paid or anyway.
That's a significant amount of money.
Right, it's not like,
And so you don't pull out 750,000 and let it sit there without having some type of transaction.
right.
I mean, everything points to the fact that they refinanced that debt. That I think, when I said others had done that, but we don't have anything that directly ties it to it. It's all circumstantial, and that's the problem.
Luana?
Well, I mean, we're hearing all this information, right? 1991, 1996, but we don't really have anything to really kind of see the timeline or to pull in any records. Is there any way that we can get something, documented that's presented that we can kind of understand? And the onus is on the other party, and they really need to provide us with as much information as possible versus sort of just verbal conversation that we're having. I think it's helpful, but then it's also kind of cloudy as well.
Right, it's making it muddier.
Because we're trying to understand.
Well, I have.
Well, there is a little bit of an onus on us as well, though.
Well, I have all the documentation through 1991. That's when the city attorney said they'd have to pay it off before we could disband. I have all the documentation. I just do not have anything after that.
And Dean, you said you have you are aware, or you can get.
Well, so typically, it would have been the IDA's responsibility at the time to issue a certificate of satisfaction. But, they were the ones that would have been able to document that it had been paid off. Now we're sitting here, many, many years later, a quarter century later, trying to figure out what happened back then. I think it's very unlikely that it was not paid off, just because we had trustees at the time who would have gone ahead and ordered a trustee sale if they hadn't done it, and then we have the $750,000 loan that was taken out around the same time or in an amount of money that is sufficient to pay off what Manassas said they owed 5 years prior. So again, it's just circumstantial, but it does seem to indicate that it was paid off.
What's the disposition of the land now? Is it?
I don't know.
Is it occupied? Like, is anyone on it? Is there a business on it, or what's going on with the land itself? Do we know?
Well, there used to be a business on it. I don't know what's on there now.
Old
Was
Dominion
Capital Supply, was that what we said, Joanna?
Put a building on it. Old Dominion Supply, they were the ones that were gonna.
Old Dominion, yeah.
Yes, there was to be a business on there, but I can't tell you for sure.
And Dean, you said the onus is somewhat on the EDA now too, so can you clarify that?
Well, it's not necessarily on the EDA now. It was on the IDA back in the day when they should have issued that certificate of satisfaction, but we didn't have a board that was actually up and running. Nobody was serving on it. So I'm not sure how that happens, but apparently it did.
Hey, Dean.
And I do know that, so here's another little bit of information that we haven't given you yet. So years later, when the IDA, they had some money in the bank, they gave that money to the Florey Small Business Center as startup funds. And they did that because they had no further need of that money. Now that tells me also that everything was paid off at the time.
So, Dean,
But again, we don't have that smoking gun.
is it possible to have that party come back to a future EDA, the other party, and present their case?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
So is it possible to have the other party, the landowner or their attorney, to come to present to the EDA, I guess, their evidence?
Well, they don't, the landowner doesn't have the evidence. He's trying.
Okay.
Everybody's trying, but you can understand they're all a little bit elderly, and their memories are not as good as they once were. The trustee apparently is in that boat as well. And I don't know who the owner is now, and if it's the same owner. I would imagine it's the same owner, or they wouldn't have been able to sell it before without getting this cloud removed.
So Dean, they
Now
remember,
it's 20, what's that?
they remember when they took out $750,000, they just don't remember what they did with it. Is that what we're saying?
They have not said that to me. I'm looking strictly at the land records. And the land records, the deed of trust in the land records references the note for $750,000, and it talks about repayment, but it does not say in there that it's a refinance of an existing debt, which, nowadays they do that for this very reason.
It would,
It's not,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
I would say the land records now do link them. So if you have a new debt, it'll link back to whatever's being paid off. So it's much easier to follow now, but they weren't doing that back then.
Yeah.
And was the IDA, were they keeping any type of notes, generating any board meetings when they did meet and address this issue?
Like I said, I have all documents up through 1991.
Okay.
But after that, the IDA did not meet,
Didn't exist.
pretty much because they never had a quorum.
So it sounds like they wanted to dissolve. They weren't allowed to dissolve, but the members just walked away. So they never really had follow-up meetings.
So we have nothing, he's talking about the 750,000. We do not have any documents that said that that was paid off.
How large is the land? How big a space are we talking about? Is it big enough for a warehouse? Is it many acres? Is it 10 by 12 feet? What kind of dimension are we talking about?
Yeah.
Just curious.
Oh yeah, look up the lot, which one? You have a lot number laying off the top of your head? I gave it to you previously. If you could tell me, I can look it up real quick.
She's went back to her office to get her documents that she has about the land.
That much money back then is pretty substantial.
It is, right? So
Let me see if I can find it in my records.
Seems like we ought to be able to do some kind of research, even if it's
I agree.
maybe it's not in our records, but there may be some public records or,
Be there. Yes, I do.
Yeah. Dean, Lana's looking through her records right now just to see if there's anything more illuminating than what we have.
Yeah, I'm doing the same here, so if I have something as well. Let's see, if you wait a second, I can pull up the land records and that'll tell us the actual.
We did have
Sorry it's taking so long.
No, it's okay.
Let me go get, I think I have the other book has the actual picture of it.
I'm pulling up the deed of trust for, so it's lot 45, phase 2. So with that information, I should be able to get something here, bear with me.
45, phase 2. Just trying to remember, was this in the packet? This was in the packet, right? Yeah, I thought so. This is,
Dean, is there a deadline as to when this needs to be
good call.
done, approved?
Well, they would have liked to have had it done last week, to be honest with you, because it's, there's a sale that's being held up because of this.
Okay, but there's no pending regulations that we would be in violation of if it wasn't approved.
No, this is strictly at your discretion. So lot 45, of course, the plat is horribly.
Did I miss it?
Let's see, it looks like it's about 2.5 acres, a little less than 2.5 acres. The end of Nassau Court.
Where is that
what
again?
was that?
At the end of Nassau Court. It's about 2.5 acres.
Two and a half acres, by which court again?
Nassau.
Nassau.
If you go down at the end of Nassau, and at the very dead end is lot 44. Immediately to the right of that, in the cul-de-sac, is lot 45. So Nassau comes off of the Industry Drive. If you're looking at a map.
Forgive me. If it was in the packet, what page would it have been on?
It's not in here.
Oh, it's not in the packet. Okay, I was like, okay,
Yeah, I was
that's why I think I was confused by this particular item. Okay, good. Just validating that we're not crazy. Sorry, Dean. We're looking.
Well, not for that reason. You might still be crazy, but not because of that.
Those on YouTube are getting a real show tonight. You know, it's a rare occurrence of the EDA. So.
Yeah, sorry about this.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, it looks like there's something on there. So, I mean, I'm looking at it right now.
In the packet?
So
You
Dean,
say Nassau or Vassau?
Yeah, so it's Old Dominion Supply Inc., and it's still owned by William and Wilma Vermillion were the original debtors and original purchasers. So they still own it, so they're trying to sell it now.
This picture I have here.
So Dean, you said they got a loan for $750,000 in 1996.
Well, the original, yeah, 96. So in 1986, they took a debt of $1 million through the EDA. Okay? And then, and I'm not sure how that played out. It looks like the city sold bonds, and then the EDA administered the funds as part of that. And Lana was part of that, so she could give a better explanation of what actually happened. There weren't too many that did this, but this was one of them. And then, so in 86, they took out $1 million. In 91, when Lana said they still owed over $700,000, in 96, they took out a loan for $750,000, which ostensibly would have been to repay or refinance the original debt.
This is it. Hey, Dean, do you see our
At
screen?
least that's the assumption, at least.
Dean, can you see the screen that we're sharing?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand that.
Can you see the screen that we're sharing?
I'm sorry, it was kind of muffled.
Could you see the screen through?
I can't see the screen you're looking at. Oh, yes, there I can. Yes, okay, there it is. Yes, that's it.
This is the high school here. It's this one right here.
Yeah, that is the right property.
Okay. So they're looking to sell that, but they need. Okay, got it. They're looking to sell the land.
Yes, but so typically when there's debt like this, it's in the chain of title, you would have to satisfy that debt with the sales proceeds.
Yeah.
So if you don't do this, then they're going to have to come up with a way to, I mean, we would be responsible for telling them how much debt was still owed so that the proceeds from the sale could go to pay that off. And their argument is that it was already paid off, as indicated with that $750,000 debt that they took out in 1996. And again, I can't find in the deed of trust from 1996 where it says anything about a refinancing.
But the owners were the ones who refinanced, Dean?
Yeah, the owners refinanced it in 1996, and that debt, let's see here, what do we have? We have a
They should produce it.
certificate that was issued in 2010 on that debt, so that debt's been paid off.
Yeah, so the owner should be able to produce the bank
$750,000.
document.
Some bank records or something to show that, I think the onus is on them for that.
I agree.
Hey,
Yeah, sorry.
I have a question for Lana. I mean, so typically when the city's involved with debt like this, we have an agent that basically takes the money and applies it towards the debt. Do you know if we were doing that back then?
An agent, are you talking about one?
Yeah,
that
so
you have?
so like a bank is typically who handles this, and so there's a process. So they take the original funds, they then handle it for the purposes of the debt, and then as payments are made, they apply it where it's supposed to be applied. I mean, the EDA is not the one actually doing it.
No.
It's the agent for the EDA.
We should have a bank transaction that shows a deposit.
It's like Regions Bank has done it for us in the past for the CDA. And maybe even Region, and when the EDA basically took or financed the City Hall debt, there is an agent for the EDA that the city pays that money to. So it seems like they would have done the same thing back then.
Let me see if I can find, there was an attorney that was involved in it.
Okay?
Let me see if I can find
I'm looking for like the agent, which would be like Regions Bank was for the CDA when we have that debt, and I'm not sure who it is for the EDA debt the city owes right now. I can try to look through those files.
Yeah, that would. I do have that. Let me see if I can find it. Their bank at the time was Equitable Bank.
Equitable Bank, is there a way we could contact them and see, because they should have been making regular, reports, at least annually.
But the Equitable Bank was their bank, or?
And they should have then sent something to the city or the EDA indicating that the money had been, or the debt had been paid off. So I would imagine they still have files to that effect.
I don't know, I'm just looking in the minutes. Equitable Bank was the one that was sending the money that they had to pay us for borrowing the money. They were making sure that the Vermillions paid, what they owed every month.
Was Equitable Bank, the agent of the city, doing it on behalf of the city?
McGuire Woods was the attorneys that took care of everything for the city. They were.
Right, well, I understand the attorneys, but not the attorneys, the bank. So was Equitable Bank
Yes.
the agent for the city, or the EDA as far as the debt itself?
Well, it says Equitable Bank, Vermillion wasn't always paying what they were supposed to, so we had to send them a letter. And then we got notice from them that, what their outstanding principal was.
So I didn't hear that last part. It was kind of garbled. What was that last part you said?
Well, the Vermillions didn't always pay their monthly, so we had to notify Equitable Bank that, we were trying to find out the amount that they still owed us, and that's where I was getting the $706,000.
So who are they? Okay, so who was the Vermillions were making payment? Where were they making the payment to? Directly to the EDA, or to a bank that was the agent for the EDA?
This Equitable Bank was the one that we notified that they were not making payments like they were supposed to. See, I'm looking
but
at
see,
minutes. I didn't have
The
anything to
bank
do with
should
that.
have notified the EDA. It should have been the other way around.
So, Dean, I'm gonna just interject here, if I may. I think that this is probably a topic that we ought to table for another time, pending some further research or investigation, because I don't think we're going to be able to solve it now. I can say with fair confidence on behalf of the EDA that we would not, at this time, based on the lack of evidence in front of us, that we would confirm or approve any action to provide any document indicating that a debt has been fulfilled when there's clearly not evidence that we can point to. So I think we will table this for a later EDA. I apologize for the interruption, but I don't know that we can really solve it tonight.
No, I agree. We got to tell them a little something. I mean, what's the expected date that you'll be able to meet again to take this up?
Next month.
We can meet
I think
next
schedule.
month.
Yeah, the
Yep.
normal regular meeting. What's the
You
regular?
got to wait a whole month.
Well, we met a
I'll
little bit
tell them. I
later.
mean, that's probably going to be very problematic from them for their ability to sell. But I mean, it's up to you guys what you want to do.
First Wednesday of the month, so April 5th.
Yeah, I would say we target April 5th for our next meeting and pick it up. Hopefully by then there's evidence to show.
Let me try to find the 96 city audit, if we still have it.
That's a great idea.
And maybe try to tap in, okay.
I have all the.
Let me look through that and see what I can find for the IDA specifically.
Yep. That sounds good. That sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Well, I'll notify them that we're still researching it, and if the EDA board is not comfortable with approving a certificate of satisfaction at this time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sorry for the lack of evidence. I mean, we have what we have, and that's pretty much it. So I like the way we have a couple of avenues we can pursue now, at least.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing it to our attention, Dean, and appreciate all that you've done to this point. And it does happen on occasion, so.
It does, and I'm fairly confident it has been paid. But you're right; it's not fiscally prudent just to take someone's word for it. You need
Right.
something in writing. So let's see if we can at least get something.
Exactly.
I'll look at the 95, 96, 97 audits and see if I can find anything what even before and try to track it down.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Very good.
I do have one
Yeah,
quick
please.
question. Dean, you mentioned something about a certificate in 2010. Can you
Yeah.
clarify that?
That was a certificate for the debt that was incurred in 1996.
Okay.
What's
For
the
for the
certificate?
750,000?
Yeah, the 750, it was, so that's what should have happened with the EDA debt, is we should have recorded the certificate similar to that for the original $1 million debt. And that's what they're asking us to do now, is to record something along those lines. But the certificate that was recorded in 2010 is for the 1996 debt.
Which we are assuming was used to pay towards the 1 million debt to the city.
Yeah, well, the assumption is it was used to pay off the remaining debt, which was a little over $700,000 5 years before that.
But the issue is we have no proof that that money was used towards the 700.
Okay, so we'll table this topic for a future EDA, the next EDA, which we're targeting for April 5th. And hopefully by then we'll have more information. Okay.
All right?
Thank you, Dean. Appreciate you. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
hard work. Thank you. All right, the next.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. The next item on the agenda is the chairman's report, and for me at this time, I have nothing to report. The next item is the director's report. Do any of my fellow directors have anything to report?
I have nothing at this time.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the city manager report.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman and members of the EDA, thank you very much. The first thing I want to report, of course, you can see from his lack of presence tonight, Mr. Lamar Hoy has left the city. He moved on to another jurisdiction, Emporia, down south. So we're without an economic development coordinator. I'm hoping to bring in, we did a little bit of reshuffling here with the city to prioritize our ERP implementation, which is absolutely critical for our city to get a little bit more IT support with that. But I have been authorized to bring in a part-time economic support position, and I think I found the right person who should be starting April 10th. It's going to be a part-time position, so don't expect to see her being the staff member for this, but she will be helping me with tourism, marketing, and existing business relationship management, small business development, while I'll continue to focus on business recruitment, which is what I've been doing anyway. So just wanted to give you guys that update and thank Lamar, even though he's not here. I thanked him plenty before he left for everything he did for the city, and it was a tough loss, but we will move on. And one item, exciting item to present to you all tonight. Let me pull it up here. Give me 1 second.
Mr. City Manager, just a quick question in terms of the action related to what you're about to present. Is there an action?
There's
that
no
we-
action tonight. It's purely informational.
Informational.
Yeah, the governing body held a public hearing at their last meeting. We're hoping for a vote at the next meeting, but we're going to have to likely modify the contract because it's likely going to have to, the property's going to have to be assigned to you all first. So at April 5th, hopefully I'm bringing back the actual agenda item for your all approval, but I'm providing you a lot of the information that you're going to see on April 5th. You'll see, you already have the contract in the packet for which has been negotiated between Popeyes and the city itself. It's likely going to be the same contract, just, again, it's going to be assigned to the EDA at that time, so you guys will be either accepting or rejecting. And there's a reason why, and I'll go over tonight kind of why the EDA needs to be involved in this. So as we discussed, so Popeyes is the business that we were able to recruit, and there was a couple reasons why we did recruit them. And if you looked at my agenda item, especially from the governing body, I explained kind of the history of Park 170, right? Well, how the challenges of leasing across the street. There's multiple reasons, right? But it requires significant amount of capital improvement as well. The original developer was really not interested in doing commercial development and clearly just was focused more on the residential side. There's a lot of investment that has to be done in that building to make it work for commercial on the bottom spaces. So whoever's going in there is going to have some significant capital support. And what we've done is leverage an existing property to bring in a business who owns multiple businesses, including a Popeyes, to essentially incentivize them, provide them that support to go across the street to set up sports bars and other restaurants across the street as well. They don't have to, but they don't get any discount from this other transaction if they don't. And what this transaction is we own this piece of land, and you'll see in the next slide the actual subdivision. We don't own the entire piece. The back piece is actually owned by the county, even though it's in our city, so that's something we had to talk with the county about. It was supposed to come to the city, but again, historical transactions, as we saw earlier tonight, don't always get closed, so that's something we're going to talk with the county about. But just for reference, here's the cookout. Everyone should be familiar by now. The sheets, and then this is the parcel in question, and then here's the central library, just for everyone's reference for what parcel we're talking about. And then you can see I highlight Park 170 because this development's actually linked to Park 170 across the street as well. So here's the actual subdivision plat. So we own Lot 1 and Lot 2. We're selling Lot 1. We're keeping Lot 2. We're going to try to get the rest of this parcel actually to the city, so then we could do another Route 28 development as well for additional tax revenues for the city. This was the drive-through concept, just very early. This is before full design engineering, because they first want a purchase and sale agreement approved, and then they'll go into the rezoning process, the site planning, building permit. That's where the details will come in on the final layouts of the buildings. But this Popeyes business, if everyone's familiar with the shopping center where Mega Mart is,
Yes.
on 28, there's a Popeyes there.
Yes.
It's the same owner there who wants to relocate because that site doesn't have a drive-through. So everyone familiar with fast food chains, the revenues are just much more significant with the drive-through. So there's strong expectations that they're going to be a pretty good revenue generator for the city as a standalone business. It's a good product for the city. And with Connor Drive, Mathis Avenue, and Route 28, they have a little bit more room there to manage a good drive-through compared to Cookout's layout, which is a little bit more challenging for drive-through. If you've been there and you see how small that space is, this is much bigger, so the flow will work a lot better for drive-through. So how is this related to Park 170, and why is the EDA going to have to be involved? Because we're selling it for market value, but we're delaying receipt of payments as an incentive structure for this franchisee who owns other businesses, including a sports bar up in Loudoun County and other restaurant establishments as well, or is a business owner of those establishments, to invest and help them with the capital improvements that are needed to go into Park 170. So they have a lot of active lease negotiations with Park 170. If they don't open the business in Park 170, they pay the full market value, right? If they open a business in Park 170, then they start getting discounts. So you can see these are the annual payments that they would be making to get to the full market value of the land. Okay, that was appraised at that value. You can see it starts in year 6 because, again, over the next 5 years is when we're really going to be actively leasing everything with the theater deal that's still being negotiated that we talked about with the EDA, and then we're going to talk about in closed session tonight as well. That's really going to be the driver of everything here, along with the parking, right? There's multiple factors here. You need your anchor, and you need the parking. The VRE garage right now it went out to bid. It came back over budget, but we're proceeding still with that project to provide more downtown parking, along with some adjacent developments to Park 170 to actually provide the adjacent parking lots to support those commercials. So not only was it a bad building, not only did it have previous ownership that pushed away businesses, there's no parking for it as well. So that's kind of all the things that we're working around to make this thing successful. And this is another piece of it. It's providing an incentive structure that if they lease and open a business in this amount of square footage, this is their annual deduction from these payments that they get to apply. I'm sorry, from these payments that they get to apply. If that makes sense. Does that make sense, that concept?
Annual deductions.
Yeah,
means
the annual.
portion comes off of that.
Off of this, absolutely. So if they start, let's say they do it year 8, right? They started paying $99,000 year 6, $99,000 year 7. Now they finally leased 5 to 10,000 square feet and have an open business in Park 170. Now in year 8, you subtract 99,000 by the 24,726. Does that make sense? Okay, and it's incentivized that the more they lease, the bigger the discount. If they lease almost pretty much all building A, right, then they get a full discount. Because you have about 20,000 square feet in Building A and about 13,500 square feet in Building B. So if they're leasing all of Building A pretty much, they get a full discount off of this. And it's not a bad deal for the city because we're still making revenue from the Popeyes. It's not like we're bringing in a bad business, right? This is the type of establishment that we wanted to bring to the Route 28 parcel anyways. It's a good drive-through restaurant, just like Cookout, to generate additional tax revenues for the city, especially in meals tax. You can see about $1.5 million over 10 years on a more of a conservative estimate, based off of, again, projections right now, what they're getting, but we know that what they're doing right now in Mega Mart is going to be, what they're going to do in 28 is going to dwarf them.
What
Yes.
are they doing today in terms of that Popeyes, revenue-wise?
Oh, it's almost to this level. It's slightly less than this, yeah.
Okay.
They're almost at that level. So this is a very conservative estimate of what they were going to get. They believe they'll achieve a lot more than that, but again, they don't want to overpromise, right? But again, we know that usually drive-throughs, just like if you have a convenience store and you add gas stations, your revenues will increase at least by a third. Okay, same thing is true with drive-throughs.
Would the city of Manassas tell you anything about the Popeyes that they have on Sudley Road?
I don't know if they would tell, because again, the issue with City of Manassas and City of Manassas Park, I don't even know that information because I'm a city manager. I'm not the commissioner of revenue. It's the commissioner of revenue who collects meals taxes. When I was town manager, I was privy to that information because there was no commissioner of revenue. So it's challenging to secure individual business revenue data in a city government or county government that has independent commissioners of revenue and independent treasurers. But it would be nice.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Can you elaborate on the 5-year window? Why are we at zero for is that development time or?
Yeah, they're going to be developed. So Popeyes probably wouldn't be open until this year, right? And they need, again, time for everything in the downtown to take place. This is a multi-year development down here. So they're not going to open right now when there's no parking for them and there's no anchor here.
So the carrot is come play with us now, 5 years, we'll partner with you, we'll take the heat and the losses with you, and then, okay.
Well, we're not taking any losses. Again, they're going to, as soon as they're open, they're generating revenues for the city. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
But you're saying about a 3-year window before all the transactions are completed for the drive-in Popeyes?
Yeah, it depends, again, when they get approval, the purchase sale agreement. They have to then go to rezoning. They have to do all the design engineering. You're talking about at least a 2-year
Okay.
process, so year 3 is when they hopefully would be open with their Popeyes.
Okay.
And hopefully this is the time around that they can start leasing as well and opening a business. Again, it's this time frame.
And then the garage will be completed.
Garage will be completed likely by the end of this, depending on when this agreement is signed. So the garage is scheduled to start construction in June of 2023 and likely be done in the fall of 2024.
So you said this business, they have a Popeyes, and then you say they have other businesses?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're
what is the
franchised.
nature of their other businesses, and have there been any discussions about how that would fold into Park?
Yeah,
What-
yeah,
what-
absolutely. They own a sports bar that also has arcades as well, bowling, right? So kind of more activities. It's called The Zone up in Loudoun County, if you want to check it out. They were also involved in there was another business that was more like laser tag as well up in Chantilly. They own a lot of pizza establishments. I think it was it's not Godfather. I forget what the name is, but there's a pizza establishment, other restaurants that they own or partner with as well to bring in to the city. We're talking about doing a kind of like a food court style structure as well across the street, city as well, or across the street. We're having multiple restaurants as well, co-located with space for music, a bar as well. So those are the kinds of establishments that we want to bring in. And again, if they do nothing, they just end up paying us this land value anyways. So it's dangling out a carrot there that if they want to get a discount here, they have to play ball. But they were already interested in Park 170 before, but they're waiting for the same thing that a lot of other businesses are. What's the deal with the theater and what's the deal with the parking? Give me my theater, give me the parking, and we're coming.
So I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
In year 3 is the earliest that the city would anticipate receiving any type of monies from this deal. During the development period, are they going to incur any expenses, or would the
Oh,
city
yeah.
incur expenses which they would need to pay us? Just,
We wouldn't incur any expenses, they would incur expenses.
Okay.
They're doing the design engineering, they're doing all the permitting, and anything they do for us, their rezoning application, their permitting, they pay the city for that,
okay,
yeah, for those reviews. So they're the ones incurring. Once this deal is done, right, they're taking out a loan as well, so they're likely starting to pay interest payments year 1 on that loan that they're taking for construction of the property. So they're immediately they've already incurred some expenses as well with the initial planning that they've had.
okay, but there's nothing that the city would need to provide?
No,
that you
nothing.
anticipate that we would need to be reimbursed for?
Yeah, there's nothing we would provide. It's our land, right? So we're free to essentially do with that land as we please, and there's no cost incurred to the city for during that period.
Okay, and then my other question is, with the annual deduction, if they leased, say 7,000 square feet in year 4, they won't see the deduction until year 6, is what we're saying here?
No. As soon as they lease and open a business, that year that they do, right, they get the discount, right? Assuming they haven't already made a payment that year. So the next payment that they'll make, so whenever this is due,
No,
next,
but I
yeah.
guess I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off because I
Yeah.
didn't want to lose it. Say in year 4, so you don't
Yes.
anticipate them leasing anything in year 4? Because I'm asking if they lease
They
something.
could. They could lease in year 1, right? I don't anticipate them leasing until year 3, year 4 at the earliest.
Okay, but
Yeah.
they wouldn't see a deduction until payment is due in year 6?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Because this is when the payment is scheduled to begin.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I just wanted
Yeah, it gives them time to kind of try to lease up as much as possible before these payments trigger in,
okay.
to try to get the biggest discount that they can.
Right.
And the goal is that they're taking these savings, right, at the end of the day and reinvesting across the street.
And in the meantime, we're getting meals tax and.
Correct,
sales tax.
and yeah, B-Pol as well, sales tax, yep, and real estate tax revenue, because currently it's city land, it doesn't bring any real estate tax revenue to the city. Once they build that structure and they take ownership, immediately now they have to pay the real estate tax bill as well.
So one other question. So is there an incentive for them to start leasing in year 4 and 5 to get year 6? Or do you think it's closer towards, say, year 5 or 6?
I think the market is going to be their biggest incentive. If we still don't have parking and we don't have an anchor, I don't think they're coming across the street either. That's just not, so I think it's more driven by that. When they see that we have the anchor coming and or at least the parking infrastructure in place, that will trigger their investments to come across the street. So I think that's more of an important thing. This is just more of hey, there's a threshold for them for how much they have to invest across the street. So, for example, there's like a loading dock area behind Building A that has like an elevator shaft that was never completed by the original developers. So whoever's going in there is going to have to do that, and that's an expensive project. There's a lot of things like that across the street that just weren't done. That whoever's going in, that's why I'm trying to work with kind of a master developer who owns multiple franchises to kind of put that kind of capital investment there, and I'm trying to provide them some kind of capital support to do that, and we're using our land to that effect. But they're also bringing us a good business to that land as well. Yeah. And the Popeye, I'd urge you guys to go to that Popeyes there. It's one of the better quality Popeyes.
And one of the, well, I don't know if I should just say this or not, but one of the negatives is if it's cold or rainy, I don't feel like getting out, so.
Yes.
I may want Popeyes, but.
And the hours.
Drive-through.
And the hours too. So the owner was here at the governing body public hearing, and one thing the governing body members who like that Popeyes as well were like, well, you guys closed too early there. Well, it's because they don't have a drive-through. When you don't have a drive-through, you usually close a lot earlier. When you have a drive-through, you're going to have later hours like cookout, right? Now they're not going to anticipate staying open till 3 or 4 a.m. That's kind of more of the cookout culture, but at least midnight is their plan. So that just grows additional revenue.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm trying to create a little. Hold on here. Almost a kind of a fast food area here where you have your burger place with cookout, a chicken place, and then we're going to look at a different variety up here as well of fast food to kind of make this kind of a one-stop shop for a good variety of fast food.
So in regards to Lot 2,
The city is keeping Lot 2.
Yes.
And negotiating with the county to expand that. And then you'll look at growing that, developing that area, but that's in sort of a,
Yeah, that's right now in limbo until we get this issue resolved. And we're looking at other businesses right now to go in there. But again, either just a standalone drive-through or a partnership drive-through with another smaller establishment as well connected to it. So he initially had a layout for this whole property, and then we realized, wait a minute, we don't actually own this piece. Our assumption always was, because that was supposed to happen back in the days, we were supposed to take all of this. It didn't happen, so he had to scale back. So we were going to have 3 businesses there. The Popeyes, a fast food seafood establishment, and a pizza place, or I'm sorry, a barbecue place, and then or potentially a pizza place. But it was going to be takeout pizza or takeout barbecue. So that was the original concept, and then we figured out we didn't have that. He still wanted to buy this. I'm like, no, I need to keep something here for the future, so I can have a successful development in the future as well. That's why we kind of divided it up. Said you're only doing the Popeyes right now, and it's on this lot here.
Any action at this point other than information?
No, just, questions, feel free to email me any additional questions as well, any questions you would have for the applicant as well. Please email me, and I can forward it to them. There's still, again, ongoing negotiations between the governing body and the applicant. They wanted to make a change. The applicant was okay with that, but again, we still have to bring that back for governing body approval. But again, that contract is going to have to be then amended before they approve it, and then the EDA will then get involved after that.
I do have one question. I know a couple of you asked about their other businesses and the success of those or the revenue generating. Maybe that's already a question we can, start that list of questions that we may have
Sure.
to ask him. Is that
Yeah, I'd
something
like
that
to
you want to
understand.
move forward?
I'd like to know
Yeah,
that, yeah.
okay. Yep, that works.
Based on what you described, I'm just wondering how how the configuration of those buildings will support laser tag and bowling and.
Well, you can argue it's a little bit easier because restaurants are going to be a little bit more of a complex development. Things like indoor kind of kids gymnasiums, right, for kids of a certain smaller age. That was a concept that was also looked at as well. Kids play areas are very popular now, so whatever you're going to put in there is going to be intense. But the more restaurants you're putting in, the kitchens and everything else, that's a much more difficult prospect for that. But again, whatever is being leased across the street is going to be a challenge. Yeah.
What was the initial concept for Park 170?
That's a good question. I don't think they honestly had. They had a mixed-use concept, but the parking configuration, or at least determining where the parking would be for the retail customers, was never planned. They didn't plan for the anchor. What's your anchor kind of bringing the people here? So it was a very speculative development, but that was really, in my opinion, geared more towards residential development, at least from the developer's perspective. Because you don't plan a retail establishment there without talking about anchor businesses and parking infrastructure. And now we've had to work around that over the last few years and even negotiate with them an amendment to the parking agreement that the city had with them that precluded any other development happening here in the downtown. So luckily there's a good owner across the street now who's at least willing to partner with the city, who's offering tenant improvement dollars that are more significant than what the market's bearing right now. So they are interested in leasing it. It's just you got to get the parking right and you got to get an anchor to the downtown.
And what's the percentage of residential?
So that it's 291 units. I don't know the square footage of it, but it's 291 apartment units and about 45,000 square feet of commercial space. Yeah, and there was supposed to be additional flex spaces along Market Street. If you notice, when you're walking along Market Street, there's some units that don't look like traditional residential. They were allowed to convert that to residential if the commercial frontage on Manassas Drive did not lease. And there was no requirement that, okay, well, what if we lease all of those? Should those go back to commercial? There's no requirement, so I can't force them to turn that back into commercial.
Are the majority of the units, are they leased?
The residential? Oh, yeah, the residential's, that's not a problem. So residential vacancy rates are under 1%. commercial or retail now is you're talking about 20% vacancy. So that's, for any developer, they want,
Put a bar on both sides of them, they'll move.
what's that?
Put a bar on both sides of them, they'll move.
Yeah, that's why residential in Northern Virginia, you just have such a shortage in housing supply. So that's what drives developers' interest, is going to be residential or data centers.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions? All right, this might be something, so just to be clear, do we want to bring anyone from would it be appropriate to bring someone from, like, maybe the petitioner or,
The applicant.
the applicant?
Yeah, absolutely. In the,
Question and answer.
once it comes back to you all, we can do that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, that's good.
I just had a question that was off task of this one, if I may. I'm loving the logo, and I remember we went through that branding process.
Yeah.
Did we ever see the final results from the surveys?
Yeah, I want to say we presented that to you all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't say I remember. Maybe it's just Father Time catching up with me, but, okay. Is there an opportunity? So it should be somewhere in the minutes, so I should be able to.
It should be. If not, if you all send me a reminder email, I will email you what I had from them, just as a reference, along with the final packet of data of the actual branding full package. So.
I remember, again, remember the logo, but it's always my concern at the other side of 28 and representation and hearing their voices. So I just wanted to make sure that we had a way to capture that and that was taken into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And believe they had a huge voice in the downtown as well. The western half of the city, for the town halls that we did there, you're talking about 99% approval for the plan that we had here.
Okay.
And then the east side was a little bit less, but it still was significant. But the west side was the driver of what the plan was here. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Shall we move on to the next item of business?
Sure.
So this is the closed session.
Yeah, and we'll be going to the conference room for the closed session.
Okay. Okay. So we're leaving here now.
Yeah, so you're going to have to do a
Well,
motion.
we got to make a motion first, and I have a proposed motion if you'd like me to read it.
For item 9 or for item 10?
To go into closed session.
Oh, to go into closed session. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, please, Dean. Thank you.
Okay, so I recommend the EDA go into closed meeting to discuss and consider the potential sale of city-owned real property to a prospective business where no previous announcement has been made of the business's interest in locating in the city, and where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position and negotiating strategy of the city, and to consult with the EDA attorney regarding the same pursuant to paragraphs 3, 5, and 8 of subsection 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia.
Is there a motion in support of the statement that the city attorney just read?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. We are in closed session now.